Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Delaware Barristers Association retirement celebration for Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls. My name is Brianna Denby, and I'm the president of the Delaware Barristers Association, a local affiliate of the National Bar Association, the nation's oldest and largest organization of African American lawyers and judges. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Cohen Seglius, where my practice consists of internal investigations, white-collar defense, government and regulatory affairs, and I am honored to serve as your mistress of ceremonies for this evening. We are delighted that you could join us for this very special occasion honoring the long and distinguished career of Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls. We are joining you live from the Delaware Historical Society, located at 505 North Market Street in Wilmington, in their Copeland Room. This location is fitting because the work of Judge Smalls, the positions he has held, and the mark he has made is history-making. Judge Smalls has touched so many people over his long career that we really wrestled with trying to keep the program just under 2 hours by featuring speakers with a close connection to him. By all means, this list of speakers is not exhaustive, and we tried to incorporate as many people as we could. At our live location, we have an audience of Judge Smalls' closest family and friends, our speakers, and committee members. And unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, we are unable to host many of you at our live location. For those in attendance at the live event, please rest assured, while many of us have either been partially or fully vaccinated, we are still keeping within the protocols of COVID, including requiring check-in procedures at the door, requiring masks for all in attendance, and keeping under 30% capacity for occupancy for our meeting space this evening. For those joining us virtually, we are using the YouTube platform to stream this event live so that it was easy and accessible for everyone to join. We didn't want to bother with access codes and all of that, so we hope that everybody was able to join virtually with ease. So unfortunately, with the YouTube feature, we are unable to see you, but we want to engage with you, and we encourage you to place your comments in the chat feature, which will be monitored throughout the evening. Now remember, this is a celebration, so we want you to get a glass of champagne, wine, or your favorite beverage, because later in the program, we will join in together for a toast to Judge Smalls' over 30 years of public service. Much hard work and planning went into organizing this event, and especially trying to make this event as engaging and memorable and as fitting as possible for our beloved Judge Smalls. Each of the committee members has a personal connection to him of how Judge Smalls touched their career, advocated for them, provided sound advice through tough love from the bench, made them a better attorney, or quite frankly, a better person. This is the Delaware Barristers' way of saying thank you, Judge Smalls, for your servant leadership, your mentorship, and providing us of a model of how to serve with excellence. As a point of personal privilege, I met Judge Smalls in 2013 or 14. I had just moved back to Delaware, and I was starting my legal career, and I was working at the Newcastle County Law Department, and I had a work assignment. And that work assignment was to find the owner of a parcel of property that had fallen into disrepair. And not just any parcel of property, but a cemetery. And not just any cemetery, a historic cemetery. In a historic cemetery in that a lot of African American and notable African Americans were buried there. And it kind of sat in between the end of the city of Wilmington limits and before Newcastle County began. And that cemetery is called the Mount Zion Cemetery. And it interned African Americans at a time where we had to be interred separately and buried separately during a time of segregation. So over the years, many of the members of the Cemetery Association, or the board that was managing the affairs of the grounds, passed away, and there was no board structure in place. And through my digging, I learned that Ezion Mount Carmel Church had records and archives and knew something about this cemetery. And I was directed to Trustee Emeritus, Judge Alex Smalls, for information. So Judge Smalls and I worked together, and we found new board members, and we revived the corporate structure. We applied for grants from the City of Wilmington and Newcastle County to repair that cemetery. We found a contractor to pave the new roadway in that cemetery and install fencing, have grass cutting services regularly, and ensure that those notable African Americans that were buried there, including famed jazz musician Clifford Brown, Black veterans, and other pillars of the Wilmington community, had a proper resting place. During my 7 years on that board, Judge Smalls was a sounding board for my career changes, my wins and my losses, writing reference letters, and always advocated for my career growth. So a lot can happen in 7 years. And so he also listened to my relationship problems. I told him about my family. I think when I got a new dog, Judge Smalls met her. And he was at my swearing in for the Delaware Bar. And so he's done so much for me. And one day, Judge Smalls picked up the phone and told me he was looking for a good law clerk. And I was able to provide him with a name, and he met with that individual, and his name is Johanna Y., and he hired that law clerk on. And that is one of his final law clerks, Johanna Y., and he's been a member of this planning committee, a really integral part of our planning committee, and so we thank Johanna for all of his work, and I was glad I could do something for Judge Smalls because he's done so much for me. And so I'm glad I met Judge Smalls in 2013. He's been a part of what I like to call my kitchen cabinet of people that I like to talk to get advice from before I make a move. So Judge Smalls walked so attorneys like me could run. He taught us that we could lead government departments. He showed us that we can not only be a judge in Delaware, but be chief judge. What an example and high bar you have set for current attorneys and new rising attorneys coming up through the ranks. Tonight, you will hear from elected officials, current and retired members of the judiciary, colleagues, close family and friends who will all reflect on Judge Smalls' 30 years of public service and what it was like to be a member of the Delaware Bar when there were so few African American attorneys and even fewer African American judges on the bench in Delaware. We hope that you enjoy. And now, we will begin our program with a prayer from Reverend Dr. James Seymour.
We commend his past service as an attorney employed with governmental entities, then as Director of Public Safety for this city, followed by his years as a judge and chief judge of the Court of Common Pleas. We honestly sense that in the face of complex issues, he has acted knowledgeably with regard to the law, justly with fairness to everyone, wisely with reasoned practical considerations, and consistently with concern for the common good. We give thanks for his faith, for so many years of genuine stewardship of time, talent, and treasure, his continuing commitment to discipleship and service, and for the countless hours given to his trusteeship and leadership responsibilities. Thankfully, his faith in action has been of great benefit to the people of God. Finally, we give thanks for his integration of faith, family, work, and service, and pray that divine blessings will accompany his family and himself in their future endeavors. This in your name, O God, we pray. Amen.
We thank you. We thank you for that moving prayer, Reverend Seymour. And now, please join us in singing Lift Every Voice and Sing by the Morgan State University Choir at HBCU. University Choir at HBCU in Judge Smalls' alma mater.
Every voice and sing,
Amazing. Look at what we can do virtually. We can bring the Morgan State University Choir right here to us in Wilmington, Delaware. And now I will read a brief biography of Judge Smalls. The Honorable Alex J. Smalls was born and raised in Georgetown, South Carolina. Upon graduation from high school, he traveled north, where he matriculated at Morgan State College, now Morgan State University. In 1972, he earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in political science. While at Morgan State, Chief Judge Smalls met his wife, Carolyn Tull, and they married in June of 1973. They have 3 daughters, Aisha, Alexis, Ashley, and 4 grandchildren, Morgan, Miles, Chase, and Marley. Upon graduating from Morgan State, Chief Judge Smalls once again headed north and relocated to Wilmington, Delaware, where he began working as a community organizer for the United Way of Delaware. After a year, he began his legal career by enrolling at Rutgers School of Law, Camden. He earned his Juris Doctorate in 1976 and thereafter was admitted to the Delaware Bar. Early in his career, Chief Judge Smalls worked in the Newcastle County Office of Law, we had that in common, the Wilmington City Solicitor's Office, and the Attorney General's Office, we have that in common too. And in 1985, he returned to the city of Wilmington as Commissioner of Licenses and Inspection, followed by an appointment to the position of Director of Public Safety for the city of Wilmington. After serving as director for 6 years, he was nominated as Associate Judge of the Municipal Court for the city of Wilmington in 1991, where he served with the Honorable Leonard L. Williams, the namesake of the Newcastle County Courthouse. Then Governor Carper nominated him as Associate Judge for the Court of Common Pleas in 1993. And in 1997, he was elevated to the position of Chief Judge, making him the first African American to serve as Chief Judge or President Judge of any Delaware State Court. As Chief Judge, he oversaw Wilmington Municipal Court being merged into Court of Common Pleas in 1998, a change that made the Court of Common Pleas truly a statewide misdemeanor court. In addition, Chief Judge Smalls oversaw an increase in both the size and jurisdiction of the court during his tenure. This included an increase in the number of Court of Common Pleas judges from 5 to 9, expansion of the court's criminal and civil jurisdiction, and broadening the court's role as an appellate court for the Justice of the Peace Court and Aldermen's Courts. He also oversaw and implemented numerous innovations, including the creation of drug diversion programs and specialty courts such as DUI court. Most recently, he was instrumental in the creation and launch of the Wilmington Community Court program. Judge Smalls has served with distinction on the bench and throughout the community. He was appointed or reappointed by 4 different governors and has served under 5 different Delaware Supreme Court justices and is currently the longest-serving Chief Judge of any Delaware State Court. He has been recognized and presented with numerous awards for his outstanding leadership and contributions for improving the lives of those less fortunate. Judge Smalls has served on the Governor's Justice Reinvestment Task Force, the Delaware Racial Justice Improvement Project Task Force, the Delaware Criminal Justice Council, Chairman of Community Legal Aid Society, on the Board of Directors for the Layton Home, and on the Board of Trustees for both St. Edmund's Academy for Boys and Ezion Mount Carmel United Methodist Church. And after 30 years on the bench, Chief Judge Smalls will retire on May 1st, 2021. And now, we will move into the remarks portion of our program. We will hear remarks from some of our elected officials, members of the judiciary, family, and close friends. And again, this by all means is not an exhaustive list, just a sampling in the interest of time. We will start first with remarks from our elected officials, beginning with United States Senator Tom Carper, joining us via video.
Hello, everybody. I'm United States Senator Tom Carper, recovering governor Tom Carper, and a next door neighbor of Alex Smalls and Carolyn Smalls, and at one time their daughters. If you could actually look out, there's a door right behind me over the shoulder. You could look out the window. That's the house that Alex Smalls and Carolyn Smalls have lived in for a number of years and raised their daughters. They've been great neighbors, and we're just blessed to be their neighbors and their friends. It was also a blessing for me to be able, as governor of Delaware in 1993, to nominate him to serve on the Court of Common Pleas as an associate judge, and then later on, I think it was 1997, to name him to be chief judge of the Delaware Court of Common Pleas. I think he's the first African American, if I'm not mistaken, to serve as a chief judge of one of the courts of our state. We have some of the most highly regarded courts in all the states in America. So it was an honor for me, and in the first state. When I ran for governor in 1992, I never gave a whole lot of thought to the responsibilities of the governor as they pertain to judicial nominations. But as it turns out, we have some very, very important courts, including Court of Common Pleas. We have a Court of Chancery, the Supreme Court, the Superior Court, you name it, Family Court. They're all important in different respects. But I, after having spent most of my life, not as a lawyer, but a lot of time in the Navy and as Delaware's treasurer and congressman, governor, and now senator, I never went to law school, and frankly, hadn't thought much about the qualities to look for in nominating people to the bench. But it turns out it's a major responsibility for the governor to nominate, for the Senate to consider whether to confirm people to serve on our courts, including the Court of Common Pleas. The qualities I learned to look for in the people that I nominated to serve on the bench were people that were bright, people who had a great experience, a great breadth of experience, people who knew the law, understand the law, folks who have what we call judicial temperament. It's really the golden rule to treat other people the way we want to be treated. I wanted to nominate people who had good judgment, people able to make decisions, in some cases very difficult decisions, but to actually make a decision, and more often than not, make the right decision. And finally, judges who would just work hard. These are not easy jobs, and they oftentimes have huge, heavy caseloads, but people who worked hard. And Judge Smalls was all those things. Alex Smalls was all those things. And on the bench, he's turned out to be really a role model. And whether you're a lawyer in the law business of law, whether you happen to be someone like me as a public servant or elected official, you have to be a member of a community or their church. Couldn't ask for two finer human beings than Alex and Carolyn. People oftentimes say about me that I'm married up when I married Martha. It's certainly true. And I suspect once every now and then they say that Alex married up too, and that might be true as well. But they're a great team. And I just want to say to Carolyn, thank you and their daughters, thank you so much for sharing your husband, your dad with the people of Delaware for all these years. He's made us proud as a state, and I know he's made you proud as his spouse and his dad. So thank you for all of that, and to everybody there, have a great time. We look forward to being with all of you again very soon in person. Congratulations, Alex, Judge, you're the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Senator Parker, for those words. Thank you, Senator Parker, for those words. We will now hear from Kathleen Jennings, the Attorney General for the state of Delaware, also joining us via video.
Good evening, Chief Judge Smalls. I'm told I need to keep this to 2 minutes, so I'm going to skip my prepared remarks and just get right to the point. You and I go back decades. I won't say exactly how many years, but it's a whole lot of years. We have been friends throughout your career as an attorney and as a judge, and my career as well. And we have been colleagues. We started out in the criminal division of the Department of Justice. And as I recall, you were at the time one of the only African-American lawyers in the Delaware Bar, and may indeed have been one of the only African-American attorneys in the entire Department of Justice. And while you always graciously say that I taught you courtroom skills, the lessons that you taught me based on your own experience have stayed with me throughout my career. I know you grew up in a very modest environment, and that the challenges you faced at a time when racial inequities were even more pronounced than they are today were major challenges. But you showed me the value of compassion and caring in the criminal justice system. I remember when a lady, elderly Black lady in the city of Wilmington, had her TV stolen in a burglary. The man was caught pretty much red-handed running down the street with the TV. But you treated that case like it was the most important case you had ever been assigned, because you knew for that lady who was poor, that TV was the most valuable item she possessed. And so I never forgot that, because it's who you are. You have gone on from prosecuting cases up to serial rape cases. We prosecuted one together, to becoming a judge in the Court of Common Pleas. And you took those values that you learned, the value of equity, of fairness, with you to the bench. To you, having someone who is poor get $1,000 secure bail for a nonviolent crime was unthinkable. And yet you could be pretty tough when there was violence involved and a victim who was harmed. And so I watched you through the years on the bench, and I continued each and every day that I saw you in the courtroom to admire the fact that you brought your life, your experience, your compassion, despite all the inequities I know you have encountered. And you brought it to bear on a justice system, and you have made that system more fair, more equal, and more just. I am so grateful for your years of service, and I hope we can continue our friendship into the next phase of your life. Congratulations, and thank you so much for all you've done, Chief Judge Smalls. For all you've done, Chief Judge Smalls. For all you've done, Chief Judge Smalls.
Thank you, A.G. Jennings, for those words. We will now hear from Newcastle County Executive Matt Meyer.
Thank you, Brianna, and good evening. Can everybody on the committee, the Barristers Association Committee who helped organize the event this evening, just stand for a minute? Can we give everyone a round of applause? Thank you so much. I have to mention Jordan Terry from our law office, who followed in your footsteps into the county law office, who's critical in preparing me for this evening. It's really an honor to be here to represent the 560,000 residents of Newcastle County, to thank Chief Judge Smalls for your tremendous service to the people of our county and our state. A few weeks ago, President Biden spoke to the National Association of county leaders across our country. And what he said was, whether Americans have faith in government or not, depends on county and city leadership. If we do our jobs in local government, whether the federal government's doing their job or not is almost secondary. People will have faith in government if local government is responsive. And in preparation for this evening, thinking about the Court of Common Pleas, that's kind of how I feel about the Court of Common Pleas in our criminal justice system. We're at a point, an inflection point in history where certainly if you look over the last year, more than ever before, I think so many of us are questioning how much trust we all have, our communities have in our criminal justice system. And it's hard to know what tomorrow will bring. But what I do know is that having a leader like yourself, Chief Judge Smalls, for 41 years in various public service roles, mostly in the judiciary, mostly as a chief judge, makes a world of difference. At a time when we wonder, has anything really changed? Is the only difference now that we get to see it on video every few days? You look at Chief Judge Smalls and you says, yeah, maybe, just a little bit, way too slowly, but maybe things are changing. And it also makes me reflect as an elected official and realize that as long as we take two qualities that we can learn from Chief Judge Smalls' career, putting diverse faces around the decision-making table and putting individuals of excellence around the table, if we can take those two qualities, maybe we can together have a brighter future. I also just want to add, before I read just a few sentences from my proclamation tonight, that I know people are here to honor all of Chief Judge Smalls' past work, his decades of service to our state. I recognize, as of May 1st, you're a free agent. The county is hiring. You have experience in the county attorney's office, and we look forward to your application. My proclamation tonight is pretty simple. A lot of the details here you can read later. It's things that Ms. Demby already said. But be it hereby known to all that I, as county executive, recognize Chief Judge Alex Smalls, your tremendous service to our community, a true public servant and servant leader who not only did his job every day with excellence, but went over and above to serve on all sorts of boards and as a mentor to so many people around this room and watching online today. By virtue of the authority vested in me, I do hereby proclaim today, April 22nd, 2021, as Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls Day in Newcastle County. So come on out, Judge Smalls. Congratulations. Thanks so much. Oh, I got a coin for you, too. All right. Thanks a lot. I now have the privileged distinction to introduce my colleague, Mayor Mike Perzicki. I think it's apropos for me to introduce you here with so many judges in the room, because you did sue me. But I'm joking. Mayor Perzicki and I, we love collaborating, and it's my honor to introduce Mayor Mike Perzicki.
Yes, I did, and we won. Your Honor, it won't be noticed by everybody, but believe me, probably the most remarkable thing, the great compliment to you from me tonight is I'm wearing a necktie for the first time in 6 months. It's just, no, I'm so happy to be here. We all know who the classy people are in our community, and that's been your reputation for as long as you've been on the bench. On behalf of the people of the city of Wilmington, I'm really delighted to be here and congratulate you and thank you for all your years of service. So I want to do something a little bit different than everybody else and tell you a little vignette about me and the judge that meant a lot to me. I have 3 children. 15 years ago, we had a small child brought in our lives. He was a little African-American child. And we raised him over the years as our own, but he wasn't. And so when he got to be 16, we said, we're going to adopt him. And we're tired of trying to explain to everybody why his name is different than ours. So we've got to change our name. So we went through the process and wound up in Court of Common Pleas. And the process is simply pretty ministerial. Mr. Perzicki up on the stand, did you do this, did you do that, did you do this? So just fill in the blanks. And I went through all this, and so we thought we were finished. And then Judge Smalls, my son now, is sitting out in the audience, and he said, Gage, he said, did you hear what, Mr. Purzycki said? I said, yes. He said, do you agree with everything he said? He said, yes. He said, do you want to be a Purzycki? And he said, yes. And I had tears in my eyes, and I turned around, and I looked at the judge, and he had the warmest, most tender smile I've ever seen on your face. And we have never forgotten that. We have never forgotten that. And that revealed to me just who you are. And I just want you to know that small moment meant so much to us. And it wasn't because of that, it was because of you. So I think that says a lot more than the big tough guy up on the bench, that everybody's afraid of. I think you're exposed, you're really a softie at heart. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for that memory, and I want to thank you for your service to the people of the city of Wilmington, the state of Delaware. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Purzycki, for those remarks. So moving. Okay. And thank you all to all of our elected officials. We will now have Views from the Bench, which consists of remarks from select members of the judiciary, beginning first with Chief Justice Collins J. Seitz, Jr., Chief Seitz, Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court.
Thank you, and Mr. Mayor, it's nice to see you looking so spry again. Yep, it's very nice to see that. Chief Judge Smalls, I was not there at the time when you took the oath of office for being a judge almost 30 years ago, but I know, Chief Judge Smalls, that you promised in so many words to be a wise and fair judge to those who came before you. Your words and deeds since that day show you have kept that promise. The Court of Common Pleas has benefited from your wisdom and fairness, your belief in the truth, your capacity to listen, and your moral imperative to recognize the people appearing before you as human beings caught up in the unfamiliar whirlwind of our justice system. When I became Chief Justice, I sat in on one of your community court sessions. I saw firsthand your uncommon good sense, your grace, your patience. You asked a defendant his or her name and welcomed them to the court. You treat everyone with respect, no matter how disrespectful they are to you. Everyone has a chance to be heard in your courtroom. In your sentencings, you are not a lenient judge, you are not a harsh judge, you are a fair judge. I will miss you, Chief Judge Smalls, in our monthly presiding judges meetings. I'll miss that sly smile that you have, that calmness, that confidence, that inner peace. On behalf of the Delaware Judiciary, thank you for your service to the citizens of the First State. To paraphrase the prophet Micah, you have done justice, loved kindness, and walked humbly with your God. Thank you.
That's what happens when you retire, Alex. Remember that. They forget about you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm serving two purposes. One, there was an individual who was, I can call you Alex now, right? Alex's close friend and mentor, federal court judge Joseph Farnan. And as far back as I can remember, Alex and Judge Farnan were very good friends, and for a number of reasons. Judge Farnan, unfortunately, is unable to be here because of a medical issue, However, he sent a letter which he asked that I read. And it is as follows. The Honorable Alex J. Smalls was born and raised in Georgetown, South Carolina. Maybe it would help if I read the right thing. Wait a minute. That's what happens when you get old. To Chief Judge Smalls, his family, friends, and colleagues, I truly appreciate the opportunity to express my congratulations and thoughts to Chief Judge Smalls on the occasion of his retirement from the Court of Common Pleas, and in recognition of his long and exceptional work serving the citizens of Delaware. I first met Chief Judge Smalls when I was appointed county attorney for Newcastle County in 1976. Chief Judge Smalls was already working in the office as an assistant county attorney, and I quickly realized he was an exceptional lawyer. The county government was experiencing some trying times, and I was fortunate to be working with Chief Judge Smalls. On a range of difficult issues, he would frequently come to me, having analyzed the issue, instruct me on the best legal authority available, and provide a legally sound, common sense solution, and he was always spot on. But my relationship with Chief Judge Smalls isn't about lawyering and judging. To those who knew him or know him, they know he is a warm and caring human being in so many ways and a fun guy to be with. I recall our many conversations about and with family and friends, particularly when we moved the county offices from the public building on the square to the new city county building. A big part of that fun involved multiple daily visits from Judge Tolliver, must have been my brother, Chief Judge Smalls' long and dear friend who was serving as an assistant city solicitor on the floor above us. These conversations were wide-ranging, both humorous and serious, but I'll leave the details to Judge Tolliver if he chooses to go there, and I don't. Chief Judge Smalls was a man of few words and a trusted ally. When he speaks, you listen because his speech reflects immense thought and consideration. He does not self-brag, do things for attention, or seek recognition. He is the quintessential public servant. Chief Justice Smalls, I would like to say thank you, something you have heard 1,000 times more in your career, but for your modest and humble personality. In sum, two words come to my mind when describing Chief Judge Smalls' public service, particularly his judicial service, and they are distinguished and exemplary in every respect. Chief Judge Smalls, I, like all those gathered here tonight, love you and respect you, and thank you again for your many years of service to all the citizens of Delaware, and wish you health and happiness in your so well-earned retirement. Joseph J. Farnan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the truth. You can't lock me up now. I am a retired Superior Court judge, part-time, semi-retired attorney. I'm not from South Carolina, but I've known Alex, I would say, and we can't figure this out, whether I met him in the summer of '73 or the summer of '74, but I believe, I am certain he was married to Carolyn at the time. How or why I met him is unknown at this point in time. For whatever reason, we got along immediately, not sure why. We were the same age. We both belonged to fraternities, mine better than his. We were roughly the same height, but I was taller. And we both graduated from HBCUs, I from Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. We ultimately became members of the same bar, the Delaware Bar, and basically, except for 1 year where Judge Smalls stayed out between college and law school, followed each other. I think it was a year behind me in the bar and a year behind me in the bench. People have said I am Judge Smalls' evil twin brother. I dispute that, but nevertheless, it's been said. But he's been my friend for 46 years, as has his wife and his children. Now, everybody said what a wonderful guy he is and how much character he has, and that's all true. I will say that, and I don't need to repeat it. And I've admired him for a lot of reasons, but one, he was a true, consummate family man and father. He never usually complained. However, I did remember him on 2 occasions complaining about the cost of, I think it was Similac with iron. Because we got paid every Thursday for the city, and every Friday he'd be complaining about the cost of Similac with iron and some sort of soap, and for one of the, I think it was Aisha. Now, I knew more about Similac with iron and soap than I ever needed to know in my life. He also complained about me telling people that I was him. Might have happened. But let me tell you this, Judge Smalls was always helpful to me. The first time I had a trial in municipal court, Dave Swayze sent me down. He didn't know I'd never been in municipal court, didn't have the faintest idea which way was up. I immediately called my friend Alex Smalls, who lived around the corner. I said, look, man, you got to help me. I have no idea, because he had been down there before. So he came in and he said, Charlie, just do what I tell you to do. And I did, and I survived that experience, and I learned a lot from that one time. There was another time, I will tell you, that when he was commissioner or director of public safety, I'm sorry, and a house sergeant decided he didn't want to let me see a client. Unfortunately for him, he didn't quite realize that I knew the director of public safety, who didn't like to be awakened at 11:30 at night. The sergeant let me see my client. But that was because, not because he knew me, but because we were friends, but he believed in justice. He has done a number of things, and I remember courageously dismissed the charges against a federal public defender at least twice, if not 3 times, to be overturned by our court, not me, but before the state finally got the point and dismissed the charges. He also he could be tough, and I will tell you that. There was a gentleman who liked to prey on African-American females and rape them along the strip. Remember that? And Alex, they caught him, and he bragged about nobody would care because they were poor and black. Bad move to tell Judge Smalls that, well, Prosecutor Smalls. Judge Smalls wouldn't let the man plead to the indictment. Everybody gets to plead to the indictment. Poor fellow, he'll be in jail long after Judge Smalls and I are gone. But he deserved it, and Alex was tough. The other example I want to give you is a gentleman, and Alex didn't like putting people in jail, never did. But a gentleman came before him, and he said, I beat my girlfriend, and she might have been pregnant, but she got on my nerves. First man I know to get a year in municipal court. Not municipal court, Court of Common Pleas. I remember the guy to this day. Alex didn't like violence. He didn't like violence against women, and he made it plain to that particular gentleman that he better not put his hands on anybody else. Alex Smalls was always a gentleman. If he was your friend, he was your friend forever. And I never heard him say anything unkind other than about me impersonating him, but that's understandable. But I know of no one who didn't like, admire, and respect Alex Smalls, and that would include me. I think I've used up my time. Since I'm no longer on the bench, I can't get away with much. Maybe. I would now turn the dais over to Judge Coppedge. Remember, he doesn't like for you to put your hands on the podium or put your hands in his pocket, right?
Good evening. Thank you, Judge Tolliver. Chief Justice Seitz, Carolyn, Aisha, Alexis, Ashley, and the extended family and friends of our honoree, Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls. My esteemed colleague, my protective mentor, and my dear friend. Serving on the Court of Common Pleas with you for almost a decade is one of the highlights of my legal career. You made me feel valued and appreciated. From the very beginning, you were a staunch advocate of my expanded role on the court. You always offered me an open door policy and eagerly welcomed me to stop by to discuss the pressing issues of the day, a legal analysis, or simply to discuss my challenges raising my young children. You helped me keep it in perspective. Your kindness was evident in everything you did. Your devoted mentorship and tutelage shaped and molded my judicial philosophy. You made me a better jurist. I am immensely grateful for your friendship and the investment of time and effort you expended on my professional development. I got promoted and I left the Court of Common Pleas in the fall of 2003. And during the past 17 and a half years, our busy schedule didn't accommodate much more than chance meetings entering or exiting the Leonard L. Williams Justice Center. But for me, it was always comforting knowing you were only a couple floors away if I needed to stop by and seek your wise counsel. I will sorely miss your presence. But tonight, it's our time to celebrate you. First and foremost, let me take a moment to thank you for the legacy of excellence you leave the state of Delaware, the Court of Common Pleas, the judiciary, the bar, and especially the barristers. Your unmatched dedication and exemplary service is an example for all and worthy of emulation. In 1991, Chief Judge Smalls, you became just the 5th African American elevated to the judiciary. You followed pioneering legal giants, municipal court judges Sidney J. Clark Sr. and Leonard L. Williams, and brilliant, trailblazing Superior Court judges Joshua W. Martin III and Charles H. Tolliver IV. In the 3 decades that followed your elevation, 12 African Americans followed you on our various courts. Let me say that again, 12. Alfred, Chapman, Sleet, Scott, Coppage, Street, Rennie, Montgomery, Reeves, Squire, Haskins, Horton, and Mims. Our 2 newest judges were elevated to your court. And waiting in the wings is our 13th, Green Street. For 3 decades, Chief Judge Smalls, you have been laser focused on your purpose to do justice on the bench and in the bar. You not only fairly dispense justice to the people, but you always use your position to teach countless young prosecutors like myself, as well as defense lawyers, how to hone their trial advocacy skills and zealously represent their clients. You made a difference. You enthusiastically used your influence in the Department of Justice, the Office of Defense Services, the private law firms, and yes, even corporate giants to help lawyers secure positions to blaze their own trail and pursue a successful career. You are well respected and held in highest regard throughout the Delaware legal community. You have friends everywhere. You made a difference. But What I love most about you is that you never hesitated to use your power to ensure numerous recent law school graduates of color had access to those coveted judicial clerkship opportunities. The countless times you made it happen are immeasurable. Quietly and deliberately, you made a difference. And as if that were not enough, you, my friend, not only paved the way, but you provided broad shoulders for us to stand on. You reached back, pulled forward, and lifted others. Or should I just say it again, you made it happen for nearly 50% of the African American men and women elevated to the bench. Because of you, Chief Judge Smalls, the number of African American judges has increased significantly. We proudly stand on your shoulders. As a result of your efforts and unwavering commitment, our bench and our bar are strengthened and more diverse. You made a difference. So tonight, we honor you. We salute your legacy of distinguished public service, and we humbly thank you. As Proverbs 11:25 reminds us, let he who has watered be watered. He who has given be given to. Be blessed, my friend. And now we will have another friend from the Court of Common Pleas, Judge Rennie.
Thank you, Judge Coppage. Good evening. Some time back, Judge Coppage contacted me and said, "What are you doing on the 22nd?" And I said, "Well, I believe I have a family event." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because we're having this event for Judge Smalls." So I said, "Well, can I participate by Zoom?" And she said, "I think we could make that happen." I went home and I spoke to my wife and she said, "No, we're canceling. You're going to be there." So I'm here. Judge Smalls, we knew this day was going to come. You and I talked about this. I planned for this. But even knowing that it was going to come, it's going to be very difficult not seeing you on the bench, not having your steady leadership. As a judicial clerk in 1997, I remember being at your investiture when you were being installed as chief judge, and I don't know which one of your daughters was there, but I was very impressed by the amount of people in the community that were there. This is the first, I thought there was a church service. I came in, there were all these ladies with brim hats and people were well dressed, and I said, "This is amazing." And I thought it spoke volumes to the impact that you had on the everyday citizens of Delaware. But the thing that impressed me the most was when your then young daughter, I don't know which one, basically eulogized her living father. And she did it with such poise. And I looked at that and I said, one day, if I have the opportunity, I would love to follow in his footsteps and become a judge. 16 years later, that opportunity was presented. Now, I thought I understood the magnitude of being a CCP judge, but it wasn't until I actually sat on the bench that I came to fully appreciate all that you did, and you did so well for so many years. Words can't express the gratitude that I feel for your steady leadership on that bench and your mentorship of me as a junior judge at the time. You took on the role of mentor, advisor, father figure, even fashion consultant. Oh yeah, he'll let you know. And I also reflect on the fact that you allowed me to make rookie mistakes. but you never let it stand. You made sure I learned from them and moved on. Your quiet demeanor and your even-handed approach to justice screamed through every courtroom where you sat. You comported yourself with a level of dignity and decorum that silently invited others to follow suit. Now, it goes without saying that the Court of Common Pleas is in a better position than when you first took the helm. If I could achieve only half as much as you did in your entire judicial career, I would have done well. Now, I know you're moving into that next phase of life, retirement. Mrs. Smalls, you have him on a daily basis. I know he and I, he promised that he and I would go fishing, so I'm still going to hold you to that. But I pray, like the Apostle Paul, you can say, I have fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. God bless you in your retirement. And I'll now pass the podium to Ms. Demby.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Rennie, and thank you to members of our judiciary. And we've already heard via video from our U.S. Senator Tom Carper, but he was able to join us today in person. Senator Carper, did you want to come up and give a few words? Yeah, come on up, Senator Carper, we'll have you. We're so glad that you were able to join us today here in person.
Thank you. Judge Tolliver, are you still here? No? Judge, you were talking about, I think, going to the drugstore or something with the judge, and he was, like every week he'd buy a product. What was that? Similac. Similac, yeah, there you go. True story. After I nominated Alex to be a judge, first time on Court of Common Pleas, every Christmas after that, I would receive from him wrapped up a bottle of Similac. And after I nominated him to serve as the chief judge of the Court of Common Pleas, every birthday and Christmas, I would receive a bottle of Similac. We have in the basement of our house, Alex, a lifetime supply of Similac. And I can't wait to figure out who to give it to someday. Congratulations. And we're very, very proud of you. I'm happy to be here. I see the mayor's left, Alex, and then Matt is still here. And my wife, Martha, has joined us. And Martha, great. Martha and I have the great honor of being next-door neighbors to the Smalls. And he is like what they say about State Farm, like a good neighbor. State Farm is here. Well, like a good neighbor, whenever I need an extension ladder, this man has one, and he lets me use it. And whenever it snows, it hasn't snowed as much lately, but Martha and our boys were kind enough for, I don't know, Christmas or what it was a couple of years ago, to buy me this great snowblower. And most people hate it when it snows. I love it. And I cleared sidewalks all the way up and down our street, including in front of Alex and Carolyn's house. So I hope they think that I'm not such a bad neighbor either. Well, we've only been here, I just got off the train, came as fast as I could, and I'm glad you're all still here, and thanks for giving me a chance to say something after already giving a video. I don't even know if I mentioned this in the video. When I'd been a naval flight officer in the Vietnam War, moved to Delaware, got an MBA, got to be state treasurer when I was 29, and did that for about 6 years, and then ran for Congress, and finally I got lucky and got to be governor. And I like the Republican fellow who ran the same year as me, a realtor, very good one, very nice guy, B. Gary Scott. Some of you may remember the name B. Gary Scott. Alex must have had about 35 joint appearances and debates, 35. And don't think, not at one debate did anybody ever say to Gary Scott or me, what kind of qualities would you look for in nominating people to serve on the bench? Nobody. In 35 debates and joint appearances for the governor of the state of Delaware, nobody ever asked that. As it turns out, in a state like this, with the corporation business that we have and the role that we play, the outsized role, as Chief Joseph John, I mean, it's a hugely important thing, and nobody ever asked us. And I got to be governor, and I got sworn in, and I remember we had a vacancy on the court a couple months later, and I turned to my legal counsel. His first name's Leo, I forget his last name. Stein. And I said, well, Leo, what do we do now? And he said, well, fortunately, we have a judicial nominating commission, and they are good enough to, whenever there's a vacancy, they interview people, and they recommend 3 or 4 people to the governor. And you do interviews, and you have a chance to pick out one that you think is the best, and you submit that name to the Senate, and they have hearings and either confirm the person or not. And I forget in 8 years how many people I nominated for the bench, but it was a ton. And I got to nominate Alex Smalls twice, once as a new member. I want to say for the municipal court. I thought it was the municipal court initially, and then Court of Common Pleas Chief Judge. And I think, Alex, you may have been the first head of a court, as he was a person of color. And but I had to figure out what I look for in a judge. And I think I mentioned this in the video, but I'll just say, look, I always look for somebody who was bright. I always look for somebody who had good judgment. I always look for somebody who had what I call a judicial temperament. And that's really the golden rule. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. I always look for somebody who worked hard. I didn't want to ever nominate somebody for one of these 12-year terms and just to think that they weren't going to come to work and work hard every day as I did and others. I wanted to nominate people who had the heart of a servant. The heart of a servant. They understand that our job is to serve, not to be served. And Alex was all those things. He was all those things and more. And you have made me proud. And I'm proud to be your neighbor, and Carolyn, all these years. Carolyn, thank you for sharing him with all of us. I want to say to your daughters, thank you for sharing your dad with all of us. I'll close with a story. I don't know if you've ever heard me tell this before, but my office when I was governor is about 4 blocks from here in the state office building. And it's up on the top floor. And I usually on a Friday afternoon about 6 o'clock I'd leave and go home or wherever I needed to go. One Friday about 5 o'clock, one of the ladies was out front of the front desk came into my office and she said, we got a letter here. We don't know how to answer it, Governor. And I said, well, let me take a look at it. And I looked at it, and it was a Xerox letter. It wasn't a letter was handwritten or anything. And it was you could tell it wasn't just typed. It just said, Dear Governor. It didn't say Gary Governor Carp or anything. And it had a date. It was kind of old. And she gave it to me. She said, we don't know how to answer this letter. And I said, let me see it. And it said, it was from a gal out of state. I even remember her name was Melissa. And it said, Dear Governor, I'm writing to the governor of all 50 states. So I'm writing to ask all of you the same question. And I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on your mind, a lot to do. But if you could take time to answer this question, I'd really appreciate it. And she signed it sincerely, Melissa. And I said to myself, I said, I'll take care of this and you don't have to worry about it. And I reached down into my drawer, and in my drawer in the office, and I still do this, but in the Senate, but I reached down in my drawer and I pulled up a note card about this size. It said, Thomas R. Carper, Governor of Delaware, the Great Seal of the State of Delaware. Took out my pen. And I wrote to Dear Melissa, probably the only handwritten response that she got to her Xerox letter. It was probably the shortest response that she got to her Xerox letter. There's one paragraph in my response. There was one sentence in my response. There were 2 words in my response. I wrote, Dear Melissa, serve others. The secret of happiness. Dear Melissa, serve others. You have served our state all of us, whether we've been in your court or not. You served us with great spirit, great faith. This is a great example. And we're just proud to be your neighbor. Look forward to continue to plow your sidewalks. And I just hope that when I ring your doorbell, looking for that ladder, you'll let me into your garage one more time. Thank you so much. God bless you. Carolyn, thanks for sharing it with all of us.
Thank you again, Senator Carper, for showing up in person. What a surprise. We will now hear from Kimberly Mutcherson, co-dean of Rutgers Law School, Judge Smalls' alma mater, joining us via video.
Hello. My name is Kim Mutcherson, and I'm the Dean of Rutgers Law School in Canada. It gives me tremendous pleasure to congratulate Chief Judge Smalls on the occasion of his retirement from the bench on behalf of his Rutgers Law family. It is fitting and important for us to celebrate those who blaze a path that others can follow, and the Chief Judge is certainly such a person. As the first Black Dean at Rutgers Law School, I well know that representation matters. I also know that as a first, you are called to do such a good job that you certainly won't be the last. Chief Judge Smalls has set an example for anyone who sits on the bench, and I have no doubt that his career has inspired and will continue to inspire Black lawyers and lawyers from other marginalized communities for years to come. Congratulations again, Chief Judge, and I wish you well on this next phase of your life and career.
Thank you, Dean Mutcherson. And now we will move into remarks from close family and friends of Judge Smalls, beginning first with a dear friend, Mr. Archie Leatherberry.
Good afternoon, good evening. I first met Alex at Morgan, and it was a brief encounter. I never realized that our paths would cross again. After my wife graduated from Morgan, we relocated here to Wilmington, and we needed car insurance. So got car insurance from Lester Smalls, and the name rang a bell. And I asked him, I said, you know Alex Smalls? He said, yeah, that's my brother. So we hooked up. And we've been friends for close to 50 years. And I can surely tell you, Alex is a true friend. And those close to 50 years, I've never heard him say a bad word about anybody. I've never heard him raise his voice. And I mean, you guys may have, but I haven't. And we've seen each other's children grow up. Every year at Christmas, we would always get together, putting toys together for our kids. And one thing I found out about Alex, he loves to cook and he loves to fish. And I have two stories. And the first one's a fishing story. We went out fishing. I'm not a fisherman. Alex talked me into going out fishing with him and his brother Fred. We got on the boat. We're out in the middle of the Susquehanna River. The engines start missing. Fred decides he's going to work on the boat. I'm nervous as I don't know what because I can't swim. So the whole time Fred's working on the boat, and I'm nervous, scared, whatever, Alex is fishing. That's when I knew he was a fisherman. I mean, Alex did not stop fishing the whole time we were out. And whenever I go to over to Alex's and Carolyn's, Alex always asks, "Can I get you something to eat? Can I get you a soda? Can I get you something?" It's that Southern hospitality. And I've met Alex, I've known Alex and known his family, and I can tell you, they are great, especially Alex. And Alex does one thing that I still don't know how he gets away with it. My wife doesn't like to be called by her middle name. Alex is the only person who can call her by her middle name and don't get upset. I call her by her middle name, I got a duck. So I'm going to have to get there with Alex to find out what the secret is. But Alex has always been a friend, and he always will be. So congratulations on your retirement, Alex. And the next person I would like to introduce, someone Alex surely knows, Lester Smalls.
I'm not going to tell any story. The last time I gave a speech for my brother, I just told a lot of stories. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to cry but so much also, because I get very compassionate about my brother, my friend. Thank you. The first thing, you know, we all started out in South Carolina, and for some reason we all wind up in Delaware. And to my brother, congratulations. Well done. Well done. You've traveled a long road from Georgetown, South Carolina, to this day. It has not been easy. Some of it has been hard. You did sometime make it look real easy. I saw Carolyn the other day. I said, "Carolyn, you know, Alex has made this look easy sometime." And, but it hasn't been. But most of all, you have traveled the road well. And that's what made it look easy. You have become the kindest and the most compassionate person I know, and an asset to your community and to your family, friends. And one of the things is all of your achievement, all you've done for this community. You never forgot those people back home. Whenever they call on you to be a speaker, to participate in a program at the little church on the road, or to participate in a fundraiser, you was always there. And thanks to your brother Fred, I can tell about a little dilemma you had one time. This community of primarily black people has been there since the end of slavery, but it never had a sign that says, "Win your community." So they came up, petitioned the county to put a sign up. And of course, they want their judge to come and dedicate it. But he's up to be interviewed to become chief judge. So we had to work out that dilemma. I'm not going to tell you how he did it, but he gave the speech, he dedicated the sign, and he did his interview for becoming chief judge. So, and I usually along the way give him a little bit of advice, because the advice and counsel he's given to us as a family, and he's got a big family here, is really appreciated. But I always say to him, you know, aren't you glad you're not private practice? You would have just a lot of clients, but no one would pay you, because we're so used to getting this for free. So that's my advice to my brother over the years. And it's kind of a little bit of a family joke. As I think about my brother, Judge Smalls, and we call him Judge Smalls. The people back home call him their judge. You shine such a bright light. When we were growing up on the island, and there was another island out there, and it had a lighthouse on it. And at night, it shined very bright light. And my friend, you shine a very bright light. It's a light that will, for the people that come after you, the youth that come after you, can follow to success. As I want to close, I promise I'm not going to take too long. I was kidding someone tonight that I was going to take a long time, but I'm not. But as I thought about what I want to close with, when I think about you, I am reminded of a poem by Alan Drumgold called The Bridge Builder. It tells a story about an old man who faced a chasm as he was trying to get the other side of a river. When he finally got on the other side, he turned, he looked, and he decided to build a bridge. He was approached by another person who asked him, "Why are you wasting your strength to build a bridge?" The builder lifted his head and replied, "Good friend, in the path I have come, there follow after me today others who must travel this way. Good friend, I build this bridge for them." That's what you have done. You have built a bridge for so many people in your family, so many people in this community who will come after you. And what you have done will make it a lot easier for them to travel the long road. Alex, my brother, my friend, the bridge builder, the bright light. The old folks back at home would say would say one thing to you: "Son, you do good." God bless you. And we are so proud of you.
Thank you for that touching speech. And now we will have words from Ashley Smalls, Chief Judge's youngest daughter.
Uncle Lester, that was hard. I'm trying not to cry. Bear with me. Somehow I got roped into this as the third child, I was told. Dad, on behalf of Aisha and Alexis, I don't think I could start without saying thank you. Thank you for being the best dad, the best girl dad. You know, they say when you see it, you believe you can be it. Meaning when you see greatness and achievement up close, you start to believe you can achieve anything, that you can be greater than the thing before you. So in this spirit, we want to thank you. One, for showing us how to be a leader, a trailblazer, to work hard, to think strategically, but always being there to give encouragement, guidance, and the push further. 2, thank you for always instilling in us that we should be a student, to keep a learning mindset. Growing up, you were a coach for every grade school sport, from field hockey to volleyball to basketball. And as an adult, I really don't know how you had the time to read up, to learn the fundamentals of each sport, and still work at the level you do. It is unfathomable. Daddy, you amaze me. And then 3rd, you taught us how to help and impact others. You're always willing to help others at work, at church, your colleagues, even the strangers on the street, which is interesting, always. You really taught us the meaning of a famous quote from Maya Angelou. People sometimes forget what you said, what you say. People will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you made them feel. A father is neither an anchor to hold us back, nor a sail to take us there, but a guiding light whose love shows us the way. I got this. Dad, or as I call you, Daddy, thank you for always being that guiding light for the 3 of us. We love you, and congratulations on your new chapter. Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry. Next up is my mother, Carolyn Smalls.
Good evening, everyone. To Chief Judge Alex J. Smalls, my husband of 48 years in June, the father of my 3 children, and the grandfather of our 4 grandchildren, I say congratulations on your retirement and for all that you have achieved. I am so very proud of you. This chapter of your life may be coming to an end, but I know new and exciting adventures await you in the next one. I met Alex on the campus of Morgan State College, University now. Not too long after we pledged, we became friends, and that friendship grew into a relationship. As a result of that relationship, I had to make a choice between what I knew and what I did not know. I made a choice to stay with what I knew. And as soon as I made that choice, I knew I had made the wrong choice. I rethought that decision and I chose you. A man of integrity, a man who cares about others, a man who worked tirelessly to administer justice fairly to all, a man who used his talents to work in our church, a man who set examples not only for our children, but for the children in the family of what it is to be a good man. If you asked me to choose again, and he told me I had to make a choice, I would choose you. Thank you for the many joys we have shared. I look forward to the new adventures we will share in the next phase of your life. Let's enjoy your retirement. Congratulations again, and may God continue to bless you as you retire. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smalls, and to all of the family and friends for giving us some insight of what Judge Smalls is like at home and off the bench. Okay, so remember earlier in the program I told you all this is a celebration. And so we're going to take a brief intermission so that you guys online can prepare yourself. Go and get your favorite beverage because we're going to move into the program where we're going to be doing a toast. And so we're going to take a brief interlude so you can prepare your favorite adult beverage. And here at the live location, we'll take a brief break and then we'll return with Okay, everybody, we want to go ahead and get started. We're going to start to lose some of our virtual attendees. On the break, I had an opportunity to look through some of the really nice comments. A number of them have been former law clerks from Chief Judge Smalls. Victoria Sweeney wrote, Judge Smalls can command a courtroom with just a whisper. Regina Gray said clerking under your leadership was truly an honor. And there's been a number of family members watching. We've had as many as 140 attendees online watching. Okay, so now, after our brief interlude, we're now going to turn our attention to the Honorable Joshua W. Martin III, who will now deliver the virtual toast. Judge Martin served as a Delaware Superior Court judge for 8 years and provided remarks at Judge Small's municipal court investiture in 1991. Judge Martin, we're ready for the virtual toast.
Thank you, Brianna, and for allowing me to join everyone virtually this evening. To distinguished guests, Chief Judge Smalls, Carolyn, and your family, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to have been asked by Judge Coppedge to provide a toast during the celebration of the stellar career of my friend, Chief Judge Alex Smalls of our Court of Common Pleas. In preparing my remarks, I can share with you my unique qualifications since Alex and I attended Rutgers Law School at the same time, and we both migrated to Delaware from the Palmetto State, also known as South Carolina. I have known and had great admiration for Alex since last century. In looking through my files to see if I had spoken publicly in the past about Alex's qualifications, I did come upon an investiture speech that I made, not when he became a judge on the Court of Common Pleas, but when he joined the old municipal court in Wilmington. And I was honored then to support my friend. I said at that time, on February 15th, 1991, and I quote, "But in this job, he will be severely tested. We all will find the true measure of this man. As adult as he may be, he will grow and mature in ways that now even he cannot foresee. From that lofty perch, he will experience the true measure of humility. There probably is no greater challenge than the task of adjudicating guilt and innocence, or determining right and wrong, and in turn, ordering the forfeiture of property or deprivation of liberty in the manner that our society demands. What greater price can we exact than depriving one of the right to walk freely among his peers?" End quote. If I had any question about Judge Small's discharge of those responsibilities, the answer came a few weeks ago when I heard him address attorneys who were interested in joining the Delaware judiciary. As I listened to the passion with which he spoke about what it means and has meant to be a member of the judiciary and the awesome responsibility of that office, I knew then that Chief Judge Alex Smalls understands what it means to be a Delaware judge. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me by standing for our toast. And raise your glass. As we celebrate the tenure of Chief Judge Alex Smalls on the bench of the Court of Common Pleas and congratulate him on his imminent retirement, in recognition of his exemplary service to the state, and for being the person of high moral character that he continues to demonstrate, and for having served in the finest traditions of the Delaware judiciary, on this day, the 22nd of April, 2021, we honor you for your service, Chief Judge Smalls, and wish you well. Hear, hear. Thank you, Brianna.
So now, everyone, we've heard the amazing stories from all of our program participants of how Judge Smalls has been a staple of the community, a mentor, a friend, a colleague, a husband, a brother, a father. And the planning committee knew that he was deserving of so much more than just a plaque. And to be honest, after 30 years, we knew he had plenty of plaques. And we wanted to honor Judge Smalls with a gift that was unique and fitting of his years on the bench and would be something his family could cherish for a lifetime. So, without further ado, I invite Judge Smalls up to accept his gift. Well, you have to pull this off. Pull the ribbon. All right. And pull the top off. Just pull the top off. Just pull the top off.
And these things like that?
Yeah. Make it with some fanfare. All right. So what we have here, and there's two of them, so you can have one volume and I will hold up the other. And I have volume 1 here in front of me. And what we have is a personalized, leather-bound, 2-volume set containing over 400 of your written decisions from March 1994 through February 2021. You know, it has this marbling here, and this is unique in both covers, and we have letters of proclamation inside from various elected officials and dignitaries, congratulatory letters and best wishes from U.S. Senator Tom Carper, who joined us here today, Governor Carney, Chief Justice Seitz, retired State Senator Margaret Rose Henry, longtime court administrator Carol Kirshner, a few of your mentees, as well as contemporaries of the bar. The depth and impact of your work is an immeasurable contribution to the past, present, and future generations to come. And so we hope that for years to come, your children, your grandchildren, and their children will have this unique keepsake to commemorate and memorialize all of your work. Judge Smalls, we thank you.
Thank you.
It's more than a plaque.
Good evening. And I'm going to look for that guy, Alex Smalls, that you all guys came to talk about, because I don't know where he is. But many thanks to the barristers, the committee who has worked tirelessly, Ashley Christopher, Brianna Denby, Judge Coppedge, Greg Williams, Judge Tolliver, and I really appreciate the presence of my boss, Chief Justice Seitz. He's a wonderful individual to work for, the County Attorney Matt Meyer, who's doing wonderful things in our community. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, and a person who I've honored most of my career, and that is the Reverend Dr. Seymour. Thank you for coming. And to all of you here, friends and family, those appearing virtually and in person, to my wife of 48 years, I could not have done this without your support. To my daughters, Aisha, Alexis, Ashley, to my adopted daughter, Sherry, I could not have done this without you guys. You complete my life. To my colleagues on the Court of Common Pleas and the judiciary, It has been an honor to serve with such a distinguished group of individuals that try so hard day in and day out to do what is right, to ensure that people that come to the court understand that we care. To the staff of the Court of Common Pleas, I cannot begin to express my admiration for the dedication and the professionalism and the work you do daily to provide service to those who come to the court. As I was writing this speech, I was looking at other individuals, and then there's a quote from a principal in Charleston, and he said, "It's not the height for which you reach, but it's the depth from which you come." And I think he got that from Frederick Douglass, who said, "You know, I agitate so Martin could march. Martin marched so Obama could run." So we all stand on the shoulders of our ancestors as we move forward. And as I think about what do I want to leave in this speech, I'm not sure it's enough time to cover what we've gone through since 1991, when Governor Carper stepped out on faith and appointed a black man. That was a risk. It was an unknown, because in 1991, not only were we not members in great numbers of the bar, we were in small numbers of the judiciary. And for him to say, "I'm going to elevate this person," that is a risk you take on someone that you knew of, but you don't know intimately. So you have to validate that. And one of the things we know is this: the criminal justice system is oversubscribed with African Americans. We know that. We know each day when you walk in your courtroom, you ask yourself, how can this happen? And you cannot control who come to your court, but what you can control is what happens after they get there. How they're treated, how they're judged, and how you manage the delivery of justice. And that's where judges make the difference. That's where judges make the difference. So what is the simple answer? The simple answer starts with, and all of the staff sort of write things about them. I ask someone, "What is your name, sir?" And what does that mean? I care about you. I understand what brought you here. And you know, when you look at your legacy at the court, what did I try to do? I want to make things simple, inviting, and understandable. So we changed things to say, if you litigate in this court, we will give you forms, we will put things on the internet, and we will ensure that you have a welcoming atmosphere. That is what we want. So someone referred to it when they said, what do we want people to do in a pandemic? We want helpers. And at the Court of Common Pleas, we try to instill helpers. So when the people who walk through the doors, they know that we are there, not treating them in the first instance as criminal, even though you may be brought into that system. We treat you as guests of the court. And we know that people that find themselves, which we now have determined guests, are two categories of people. The people that do bad things for bad reasons, and they ought to be treated accordingly. But most of the people are just caught up in daily life that cannot manage. They don't make enough money, they don't have a living condition, and they find themselves reaching out in a community that's over-policed and taken for granted. And if you forget that you are about one step away from that, then you're living in a world for which you do not have reality. And the more we have diversity in our judiciary, the more we have diversity in our lawyers, the better the system is long-term. Because we have come a long way. The judiciary has had studies and committees, and we have looked at ways to make it better for everyone. We are trying, but it's an uphill battle. So we take those steps. So we all have to do our part to make the system better. And that was my goal. And I hope that the things that I did make a difference in people's lives. And sometimes I'm in Wawa, and the person in front of me said, I'm buying you coffee. That's a no-no. No, you can't do that. He said, but what you did made a difference in my life. And that's what judging is all about. Judging is about finding someone at a place where they are and taking them where you want them to be. We created a lot of treatment courts because we know that the sum product of a criminal act is a reflection of what tragedy you've encountered in lives. So if we get to the root cause of that tragedy, what is causing this, then we can make change. So we started drug diversion court, we started a mental health court, and we started DUI courts. And now we're moving towards a community court. Why? Because justice doesn't operate in the bottle. We have a mediation program, because we know sometimes mediation works better than adjudication. But that's what we want to do. So as I move on to another part of my career, I hope I leave behind something that everyone can point to and say, we haven't fixed the system, but we tinkered at the end such that it began to move in the right direction. And I know that during the course of my career, I have not been very popular with some parts of the community in terms of the law enforcement, other parts. I know that. But what I do know is that there's their part, there's the defendant part, and the truth is someplace in the middle. And that's where you find it. And then, and the other part of what brings poor people to court is this new debt collection issue. People buying debt on the open market and now trying to collect against folks that don't even know they owe it. So what we did? We issued an order that said, look, if you are a debt buyer, you have to tell the people you're a debt buyer so they can respond and, of course, defend and not find themselves with judgments and risk of losing their property. So the sum total of that is, you got to remember where you came from, because you didn't get here by yourself. And if you remember that, then you know that, but for the grace of God, the guy coming in could be you. Thank you.
Awesome. What an awesome charge. What an awesome charge Judge Smalls has given us to leave the community a better way that we found it. All right, so that brings us to the end of our program. And I want to just give some closing remarks and say thank you again to Chief Judge Smalls for allowing the Delaware Barristers Association to honor you in this way. In 2013, we honored you as an award recipient at our Louis L. Redding Gala, but it was only fitting that as you retire from the bench, we also provide you with a personal send-off that demonstrated what your career has meant to the barristers and the Delaware community at large. Judge Smalls, you have been a great source of wisdom to so many, and we know that as you saw so many people in your courtroom, and as you mentioned in your speech, the police officers, the defendants, the prosecutors, the public defenders, the court staff, you were unapologetic about ensuring that anyone that came before you were treated fairly. That is so important. And we know, and we heard it from Ashley today, you're a girl dad. And we know as a father of 3 girls, you have been an advocate for female attorneys. And as we heard from Judge Coppage, from female judges, to ensure that our voices are heard and we are considered for the same opportunities as our male counterparts. We know that you advocate for lawyers using your courtroom as a training ground to shape and mold new attorneys by giving feedback either from the bench or after the proceeding. A young African-American attorney told me that one day he was rushing around and he came to your courtroom and he wasn't wearing a tie. And Judge Smalls asked him from the bench, "Young man, where is your tie?" And he said, "I don't know, I forgot it." And Judge Smalls said, and he's a prosecutor at the AG's office, or he was at the time, and Judge Smalls said, "All those attorneys in your office and you could not find one tie before you came before me?" And he said he was so embarrassed, but he knew one thing: he was not coming back to your courtroom without a tie ever again. And a female African-American attorney who worked as a public defender told me a very personal story about in 2000 or 2001 about how she was pulled over during a routine traffic stop. The police received an anonymous tip, and they were searching for a white male who waved a gun at a rest stop in Smyrna. The police followed this African-American female attorney for 15 minutes because 5 of the 7 digits on her license plate matched the anonymous tip. The police followed her for 15 minutes and stopped her for speeding, and she was aggressively policed, and the police demanded to search her trunk, and when she refused, she was held at gunpoint while the police performed this search. She was charged with speeding, resisting arrest, and at that time refusing to sign a fingerprint card. She told me that she thanked God that the case was heard by Judge Smalls. And she told me that Judge Smalls pushed back on the police report, questioned the officer about his aggressive police tactics, and a quote in his written decision said even if there was merit to the speeding violation, the officer's conduct was not reasonable under the circumstances. He dismissed that defendant's or that female attorney's 3 charges. And he also held in his written decision that an anonymous tip alone could not be the basis for an arrest. So while we are all riding high from the conviction in Minneapolis from the George Floyd case, we need to remember the quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. "The time is right to always do what is right." In order to see more justice, like what we witnessed in Minneapolis, and like that female attorney who's here today received from Judge Smalls, it is important that we occupy positions like Director of Public Safety, like prosecutor, judge, and chief judge, because injustices can happen at every level. Having representation from diverse individuals who can bring their life experiences to those positions can be truly impactful on someone else's life. Using your knowledge, skills, and experience for the good of others to make sure that people are treated fair and just has been Judge Smalls' life legacy and life work, and we are forever grateful for the roadmap you have created for us to follow. Thank you again to our event speakers for offering your kind words, personal stories, and reflections about the career of Chief Judge Smalls. I also want to give a special thank you to the Planning Committee for all of their hard work, for this event would not have been possible without them. My co-chair, Ashley S. Christopher Esquire, who kept the committee focused and on task and updated with a level of grace and professionalism that was unmatched. The Honorable Arlene Minus Coppage, who kept us on track and focused as well. Daryl A. Parson, Esquire, Jordan J. Perry, Esquire, Wally W. Rushdan II, Esquire, the Honorable Monte T. Squire, the Honorable Charles H. Tolliver IV, Johanna V.Y., now Esquire, and Gregory B. Williams, Esquire. We thank you all. I also want to thank my executive board member, Nicole Mosey, who has been monitoring the chat feature, and hopefully we can go back and read some of those because they really have been moving. For those that couldn't join us today, people have really reached out and put some really touching comments in the comment feature of YouTube. I also want to say thank you to Flux Creative Solutions, Jonathan Whitney and Eliza Jarvis, for allowing us to do this virtually while staying COVID compliant. I also want to say thank you to the Delaware Historical Society for allowing them to open their space for us for this event when they have been closed for the past almost year. And I finally want to say thank you to Front Street Video Productions, who has been taking photographs of this event and allowing the individuals here at the live event to be photographed with Judge Smalls and all the other dignitaries here. So thank you for that. And so with that, I close. My name is Brianna Denby. As the president of the Delaware Barristers Association, I thank you again for joining us in this honor of Chief Judge Smalls for his outstanding and historic 30 years of service on the bench. Thank you and good night.